Welcome to the Shrewneds. We are so excited about this baseball-focused endeavor. As teased in prior episodes, we are doing 15 to 20-minute primers for each MLB team to prepare you for this 2025 season, to help you with your fantasy baseball drafts and future bets, or simply to improve your knowledge as the season begins. From the projected starters to the prospects, we will touch it all and give our shrewd takes on the key to their success. So sit back, take some notes, and enjoy the show. Hello, welcome back to the Shrewdness and our ongoing attempt to get through all the teams here before the season starts. Feel like it's creeping up on us, even as we speak. Those dang Cubs are out in Japan, getting ready to start a game in a few hours. And fortunately, with my work schedule, I might accidentally get to watch them. But we'll see what's going on. So we're going to be shooting with two of us tonight. So we got Prue and myself, Dex. Chisholm may hop on here in a minute. He's having some technical difficulties, but Shrewdness has to roll. We have fans counting on us. So
the show must go on.
I want to, again, start with thanking you very much for the fans out there for liking, subscribing, following. It does immense help for the channel and for the podcast. So thank you very much for taking just a few seconds to like and subscribe and follow so you can get all of our baseball content and soon to be some draft content and then soon to be guillotine football content. So we're going to have you hooked up, but can't do without you. We're looking forward to it. So help us help you. We're having tremendous success ramping up. Chisholm gets on. We'll even run some numbers one of these episodes. So I just want to thank you again one more time before we get started. So that being said, without further ado, we're going to dive to the NL West, and we're going to talk about a team that is pretty darn fun. Nope, not the Dodgers. We're going to do a team that is actually still relatively reasonable and looks like a normal baseball team. We are going to the San Diego Padres. So, Prue, tell us what we can expect from the Padres this year.
That's right, Dex. San Diego, I don't know, a little known fact, but San Diego actually means something different to Ron Burgundy than it does to the rest of the world.
San Diego?
But we're going to go with the actual Padres tonight. Going to roll through their team and the outlook for 2025. And we'll start with a quick recap of where they finished in 2024.
They were pretty classy.
They stayed classy. They stayed classy for sure. They finished second in the NL West behind those pesky Dodgers. They actually beat the Braves in the NL Wildcard Series, but then lost to the Dodgers in the Division Series. So
yeah,
finished in the Final Four, if you will.
Yeah, it was close.
Yep. So had a good team. They won 93 games last year. They were projected to win about 500, so about 82, 83 wins. So they were one of the well-performing teams last year that drastically outpaced their projections. This year they're projected to be about a 500 team. FanDuel at least has them, or Fangraphs has them 82 and 80. Pacoda has a little more optimistic view, 87 wins, and Vegas has the over-under at 85.5. So they're predicting some regression for sure, and I think you might see that as we go through. I'll save my prediction for the end of the show, but let's get into the details. Payroll I thought was interesting for the Padres. In 2023, the Padres payroll is $255 million.
Woo, that was a bunch.
And that nosedived last year to 169. So they cut $90 million almost out of their payroll last year, and now they've added in another 50, back up to 207, I guess 40, back up to 207 for 2025. So they're kind of teetering in the top half at least for payrolls. Definitely not anywhere close to the Dodgers and Yankees, but they're paying a healthy salary for their guys.
Yeah, they ain't no small market, San Diego. They
That's
got
right.
some money invested.
That's right. Let's roll through lineup real quick, and then we'll circle back and talk about each guy in a little more detail. Leading off, this is the projected lineups as of a few days ago. Leading off, Luis Arias, who will be their first baseman. Fernando Tatis Jr. in right field. Manny Machado, the 32-year-old perennial all-star stud third baseman.
Beast. Guy, he's good.
Fourth will be Jackson Merrill, who is their newfound center fielder as of last year.
Also a beast.
He's almost 22, so he's going to be around for a long time if the Padres have anything to say about it.
He's old enough to have a beer finally. That's good.
That's right. He can celebrate a World Series with champagne legally now. Xander Bogaerts, shortstop. Jake Cronenworth, second base. Connor Joe and or Jason Hayward will be platooning as the DH.
Yeah.
They've also got Jason Hayward penciled in as the left fielder, but I think that may be subject to change, we'll say.
Yeah.
And then predicting to have a platoon situation for their catcher in the 9 spot, Elias Diaz and Luis Camposano. So that's their projected lineup. Starts at the top with Luis Arias,
Top heavy.
This is a very top heavy lineup. There's a significant drop off toward the end, which we'll talk about. It definitely starts hot. Luis Arias had 200 hits last year and 250 total bases. So
We
he
call
is
him
a
a slap hitter.
singles machine. 2-time Silver Slugger, 3-time All-Star, career 372 OBP. He was at 346 last year, so even with his 314 average, he was 30 points lower than his career on base percentage.
Yeah, from fantasy perspective, he is batting average.
Yes.
And that's kind of it. Not even really runs, no steals,
No steals.
no RBIs,
right.
but he did win his third straight batting title. It's kind of weird he's only a 2-time Silver Slugger. You'd think with the batting title it'd be 3, but I don't know. Whatever. Maybe it's because he was in, I think he had different leagues. That might have been what's up.
Maybe.
Yeah, 3-time batting champ, 3 in a row, and he played through a wrist injury last year. I think a thumb injury or something, and he still batted 314 with like no hands, and he's just kind of like throwing a stick up. But
maybe he's swinging
even if-
one-handed.
Yeah.
That's why all the singles.
But he's also on his third team in 3 seasons, and again, I think it's just he gets on base for you. I don't know. It's kind of very strange, but he was with the Twins, and then he went to Miami, and now here he is with San Diego. I mean, he keeps getting traded for some good talent on the way back, but it's surprising. But I think he's found a home here at the top of the order. He's been a second baseman his whole career, though, for the most part. I mean, that's what he came up with as a prospect and played it as the Twins. So first base, he is not a prototypical. Even Mark Grace is laughing at his power numbers.
Yes.
If you remember him from the old Cubs days, which we didn't think he had enough power hitting 15 to 20 homers at first base. And now you got a guy who hits like 3 to 5.
Yeah.
It is. He's going to have to get I don't even know. I mean, they accidentally go out. Line drives go out sometimes, and that's the ones for him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a not your prototypical first baseman for sure.
But he'll definitely bring up your average if you're a category fantasy player and you need average. I mean, doing a 3 straight batting champ, that ain't the worst. And plus, he says, I feel healthy. I'm going to go after it this year. I'm like, what? Wow. Okay. So he could go bat 375. I mean, he could be like the old Wade Boggs, Don Mattingly, kind of just fake stat line. But it's going to look the same, too. It's going to be single-digit homers. I don't even know, 50 RBIs maybe or something.
Yeah, 30 doubles at best, probably. No triples. And I mean, yeah. Anyway, that's not a bad plate setter for the next couple guys. Fernando Tatis Jr. Only played 102 games last year, but still managed a 2.6 WAR. He's had some PED suspension issues 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Another cool stat I thought was that he's led the league with 18 outfield assists the last 2 years. So strong arm, accurate arm. I think he had 12 last year and 6 the year before, something like that. But 12 outfield assists is pretty amazing.
That's crazy for a shortstop converted outfielder.
Right.
I mean, that's
not
normally
been doing
what
it
you
that
see.
long.
Yeah. But then again, as one of my buddies last year, he highlighted the best player on every team going up in school is your shortstop. The shortstop can play everywhere. If you look at most outfielders and infielders, they all played shortstop on their little league teams. They all played shortstop in high school. And then you get to college and you start finally kind of funneling in. But it's not really surprising. He's phenomenal. But this guy is so unbelievably uber talented. If he could just stay vertical and do 160 games, he's going to win an MVP. I mean, he's that good. He's just that freaking good. He tanks balls when he hits them. He just absolutely blows them up. So it's going to be pretty darn exciting to see just what he can do if he stays healthy. I
He's
mean, I
only
think he's
26,
yeah,
right? So he's still got more potential, even more potential, according to, baseball experts or whatever. But yeah, never played more than 141 games in a season,
it's
and
crazy. But
this is his
listen to
fourth year or whatever.
these WAR averages, Prue. So 2019, Fernando Tatis Jr. is 20 years old that season. He has a 4 WAR in 84 games. And
Wow,
then at
in
age
half a season.
21, age 21, he has a 2.8 WAR, but only 59 games. Hurt again. And he was fourth in the MVP with 59 games and a Silver Slugger. It's like, what? And then you go to his age 22. Fernando Tatis, 6.6 WAR in 130 games. He had 42 home runs, 97 RBIs, 282, a 611 slug, 975 OPS that season. And he was third in the MVP. So you get a
Right.
trend here. He stays healthy, MVP 4, MVP 3. And then he got injury and PED. He's out for all of 2022. Next season he plays 140 games, 5.2 WAR. And it wasn't even that good a season. But you know what? Instead of winning an MVP or Silver Slugger, he got a Gold Glove. Like,
Just
wow.
trading out his hardware.
It is. And so now he's only 26. He's been around forever. This is his seventh season, but he was hurt for one. So it'll be his sixth Major
Yeah,
League Baseball season that he's
sixth
playing
full year.
healthy. I mean, this guy has got all the talent in the world. He's a freak. He's fun to watch play if you haven't seen him.
Yeah, he totally is. It's not if he gets hurt, it's when, unfortunately.
It does suck.
So if they can manage over half a season with him, if they can get three-quarters of a season out of him, they got a really good chance to push up into the 90 win range again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Third in the lineup is Mr. Manny Machado, who is 32, who has been around forever. You could repeat your previous sentences, Dex. I mean,
Yep.
Manny Machado's had so many awards over the years and is still doing it year after year. 6-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove, 2-time Silver Slugger. He's
God.
finished in the top 5 of MVP votes 4 different times. He's never actually
Wow.
won it, but he's been top 5 4 different times. The thing that really concerns me about the Padres, and Machado in particular,
Yeah.
is that he is projected to get, or he will be paid $17 million in 2025.
That's a
That
bargain.
jumps. That's a bargain for what you've gotten out of him. That jumps to 25 million next year, and then for 5 years in a row after that, he's going to make $39 million
Woo.
per year. So
Wow.
as a 35-year-old,
I know.
up till age 40, he's going to be making $39 million per year.
That is an untradeable contract.
That is death if I'm the front
Yeah.
office Padres
Albert
GM or
Pujols
whatever.
says, no, it's not. It's fine. You can work right around it. But
Yeah, he and
you're
Albert can
right.
be rolling in their swimming pool full of money as 40-year-old retired guys.
I think you're right, though. That's going to be really tough for this team to navigate going down in the future. And it's not like Tatis Jr. I'm pretty sure they already extended him. And if not, he's going to be coming up soon.
Right,
But yeah, that's going to be tough. But yeah, Manny Machado, he's someone that he got that contract and he absolutely earned it. But he just never quite gets over the top, right? So he's someone that has all the talent, but he's 32 now. But then
right.
again, as I was reminded the other day, Paul Goldschmidt won the MVP 2 seasons ago when he was 35. So, I mean, if you look at that, Manny Machado, and he seems to keep in shape. He seems to be a true professional. And he's been in the league. He's been playing Major League Baseball since he was 19. So, like Juan
Yeah,
Soto, he just came up early, got his huge contract at 26 or 27. Yeah, he's 6 years into it, and I think he did a 15-year
it
contract or
was
something now.
11
It
years,
was
I
11?
think. Yeah,
Okay, it was long. That's all I remember. But yeah, he's still got a lot left in the tank. I think he's definitely worth drafting fantasy still. I
oh
think
yeah,
that top, well, you'll get to the next one, but the ones that are going to be ahead of Jackson Merrill, who we talk about next, they're going to be on base a lot. I mean, those on base percentages are going to average about 350 probably.
Yep, that's the idea. And then you bring up your young stud center fielder, cleanup hitter Jackson Merrill, almost 22. I think he turns 22 in 2 weeks or so.
What
So
happened opening
he'll
day?
start the season essentially as a 22-year-old. 4.4 WAR last year, hit
Ah,
292 as a 21-year-old, 826 OPS, 24 homers, 90 RBIs last year. Silver
dang.
Slugger, All Star, second in the Rookie of the Year voting, ninth in the MVP voting as a rookie, 21-year-old. That is a good pedigree to start with.
Yeah, that ain't a bad year one. And he's only second in the rookie of the year because Paul Skeens is ungodly. And he's a multi generational talent pitcher who damn near beat out Chris Sale in the Cy Young last year.
All right, yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, Jackson Merrill was essentially the rookie of the year last year, but Paul Skeens. But
yep,
man, that dude is phenomenal. I know he didn't win the Gold Glove, but I know he's super good defensively too. And I think he's going to be competing for that as he gets forward in the next couple of years as well.
yeah.
He could,
4.4 led the Padres last year
yeah,
in their returners at least. We
yep,
could talk about who they lost later on, but
yeah.
so not a I don't know, proven veteran as in your cleanup spot, but the guy proved he had what it takes last year. As long as he doesn't have a major setback, he'll
Sophomore
still be
slump,
very productive in that cleanup spot.
because we saw a couple of those sophomore slumps last year with Corbin Carroll and Julio Rodriguez.
Yep,
They exist. So, and now
for
those,
sure.
don't tell me those names don't ring a bell. They're really good. So Jackson Merrill, I wish him the best, man. I don't like seeing it. I want him just to dominate again. But
Yep.
it is, they got tape on you now, buddy. They know whatever your little blue zones are, and they're going to throw 90% of them in that zone.
We've talked about it before. Pitchers are smart in the major
They
leagues.
adjust
They adjust quickly.
for
They'll figure
sure.
out ways to get you out. Fifth in the order, Xander Bogaerts, shortstop, age 32, 1.2 WAR last year, which is not terrible. Maybe like a little more out of your five-hole hitter. Hit
Yep.
264. He's a five-time Silver Slugger, four-time All-Star. Only had 111 games last year, so that could have contributed to the low WAR total.
Yeah.
One note, 2019, he had 52 doubles that season.
That's a ton.
That is a ton. 38 is his highest since that time. So he's
Hmm.
never gotten close to that again. Power numbers, like you would expect out of 32-year-olds, have
Yeah.
started declining over the last few years, but he's proven over the last 8 to 10 years he's been in the league. Five-time Silver Slugger shows that he's very capable with the bat.
Yeah. I was just looking, I was wondering what he's missing games for. It sounds like he had a shoulder fracture last year. That's not real good. But we're hoping, I mean, the Padres are at least hoping. So he's another guy. I mean, speaking of Machado's 11-year contract, so Xander Bogaerts. So that's
Yes,
another 11-year, $280 million contract that they're just in the middle of. I mean, he's got like, like half of it left, and he's 32. So he's always been a good hitter. Always, always, always been a good hitter. He's just lost his pop the last few years.
right.
I mean, for Boston, I mean, he was 30 and 100. That's what you could count on. And then since San Diego, he's been 19 homers and 58 RBIs. And then last year getting hurt, 11 and 44. But still, the first year he wasn't hurt, 19 homers and 58 RBIs.
Yeah.
So I think they want a little more pop out of your shortstop when you're shooting up 25 mil a year or whatever the heck that plays out to.
Yeah, they're
But
paying the left side of their infield a lot of money to be 32
yeah, with a lot of years left.
with a lot of years left. Those guys are going to be
Ugh.
leaving gaping holes when they're 40-year-olds trying to navigate shortstop and
Yeah,
third base.
these look like a bunch of Alfonso Sorianos in their mid 30s. That anchor for the Cubs back in the day when they got him from the Yankees, and he was just an albatross. He just killed the Cubs for seasons, man. But yeah, I see a lot of old dudes on this team now that I'm just looking at the lineup.
Other than Jackson Merrill, yeah, I highlighted all their ages there, and he's the one standout that's not in his 30s.
Exactly.
Okay, let's keep moving. Jake Cronenworth, second base. He's also a guy that's finished second in the Rookie of the Year voting just a few years earlier in
Yep.
2020. two-time All-Star. Just kind of so-so numbers the last few years. 324 on base last year, which is not terrible.
Nah.
1.9 WAR, again, not terrible. Just kind of average. He'll contribute.
Yeah, and I think we go with the WAR categories. Jake Cronenworth at a 1.9. I mean, 2 is kind of what they deem as a starter. And below that, I mean, you're fine. And I think Jake Cronenworth, you don't really get WAR points, but he plays multiple positions. So I know he plays third base, second base, first base. And I think they threw his ass in the outfield a couple times too. So I'm not 100% sure, but I know coming up in the minors, at least for the Montgomery Biscuits, I think he played a couple outfield games, and I saw him play there. But he can
Nice.
always hit, man. That's the thing. He's always been able to hit. And even 241, you're like, that's not that very good. But 324, he's gonna
Yeah,
get on base. And he
yeah.
controls his zone. He's got some pop. He hits the ball hard. So he's a solid everyday major leaguer. You're not gonna kick him out of the lineup like, oh, you suck. No, he's someone you like.
Nope, that's what I kind of noted too. Is he's not anything outstanding, especially when you look at the guys in the top half of this lineup. But he'll contribute. Maybe you don't want him as your fantasy second baseman.
Yeah.
He's not going to be a off the page huge stat guy or anything, but he'll contribute to this team at least. Find a way on
Yep.
base.
Yep. I think so. And I think he is going to play some first base too. I know Luis Ariz. I don't know. I don't think he's playing every single game at first base, but maybe so. Maybe he'll be relegated to second base most of the time this season.
No, what they need to find is a power hitting first baseman and then let Arias play second or DH or something.
Yeah, that'd be
Because
ideal.
their seventh spot in the lineup is a concern. If you look at their DH spot, they've got Connor Joe and Jason Hayward listed as a platoon in their DH spot. Two of them combined hit for about 220 last year.
Yeah, that's not a good platoon right there.
They're both in their early to mid 30s. They've both proven that they're not going to put up huge numbers. They've
Yeah,
each had kind of long major league stints, and what you see is what you're probably going to get again.
but maybe a little worse.
Yeah. So they'll be lucky to combine for a 300 OBP, maybe a 700 OPS. You're just not going to get a lot. And they signed both of them as free agents in the offseason, both on
Yeah.
1 year deals. I think it was just kind of a placeholder, maybe trying to get to one of their prospects or something. We'll talk about Terso or Lanus in a minute here,
Yeah.
who maybe could see some time this year, and that they could swap around some lineup stuff.
Nothing exciting about these guys. I mean, Connor Joe's as exciting as his name, and it's
That's right.
kind of all we get there. And Jason Hayward is not the guy he was in his early 20s with the Braves, nor is he what he was with the Cardinals or what he was with the Cubs.
Right.
He's just not that guy. I'm sure he's a good clubhouse guy. He's probably a hell of a coach, but I don't know what he's going to deliver in this lineup other than average defense because he's lost a step. He may have lost 2 or 3 steps in the outfield.
Yeah.
He looks like he's got bad knees playing the outfield. And that's
He's
kind of it.
he's 35 and was a great defensive outfielder 10 years ago.
Yep, I think so. Because this is the guy that won multiple gold gloves, but that's not who they have. So,
So I've got to believe somebody will step up here in the end of spring training and kind of claim that DH spot, and they'll end up in a platoon situation with Hayward and Connor Joe in left field, maybe,
yeah.
or maybe find a better everyday left fielder and mix in these two. But anyway, right now they're kind of penciled in the 7 and 8 slots in this lineup. Hopefully someone else, capable bat will step forward and fill one of those
Yeah.
spots.
I mean, the top half is so strong. They don't need him.
Yeah,
They just need to be average. If they can just be
that's right.
zeros on the WAR, like we've talked about with a couple other teams, just be a replacement player. Just don't be worse.
They both did contribute positive WAR slightly. I mean, a .6 for Connor Joe and a 1.2 for Jason Hayward. So
Yeah.
they're technically, replaceable players, a little better than replacement.
Yep.
Like you said, they just need to be average and not be terrible.
That's it. So who they got behind the plate?
Elias Diaz, 34-year-old catcher. This is another free agent signing for them. He came over from Colorado. He made $6 million for the Rockies last year and is going to make 1.5 this year. So I think he sees the writing
Market
on the
value.
wall. Yeah,
Yeah.
his market value is going down. What he is really good at is he is a very good defensive catcher.
Gotcha.
He is a very poor offensive catcher. He
Mm,
did hit 265 last year, but really no countable stats. 695 OPS is
that's weak.
pretty weak. He hits ninth for a reason, was my takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a 380 slug in Colorado.
Yeah,
That's hard to do.
right. I did see that he is a very good defensive catcher, handles the staff well, that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
I'm sure that's why they brought him in.
there's certainly value with that, no doubt. You got to be tough up the middle, and frankly, that's not bad up the middle when you got Jackson Merrill, who's probably going to vie for a Gold Glove this year, Xander Bogaerts, who's won a Gold Glove, Jake Cronenworth, who I know is pretty solid, then Elias Diaz. I think he's pretty good behind the plate. So if you're good up
Yeah.
the middle, you got a chance. And I know Manny Machado's won Gold Gloves at third base. I mean, they got a lot of good defense up here.
Yes. Yeah, they do. They do. I think the other reason they may have brought him in, they've got this younger catcher, Luis Camposano, who's
Yeah,
25. He had a slightly negative WAR last year, only hit 227. He's another guy that I think they want to invest in as far as being a great defensive catcher, knows how to handle the pitching staff and all those good things.
yeah,
They got to find some way to boost the offense in their out of their catcher spot. So I think both those guys. I mean, we talked about it with their left field situation on DH. They're gonna end up platooning and maybe finding the hot hand to see who gets a few more at bats. But it's projected to be kind of 50-50 right now.
gotcha. Yeah, I remember Luis Camposano. He was one of the top prospects in basically on the MLB list for catchers. But it looks like he's just never been able to get the hit tool going.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that was kind of what he's supposed to be, as an offense first catcher. But
281 OBP last year is not
yeah,
good.
that does not that doesn't really come off the walls as like, hey man, I'm offense first. So
Right.
he may not get much playing time. If Elias Diaz can do anything with a bat, frankly, he kind of outperformed him last year, even with Colorado numbers. So we'll see what happens. I mean, San
Right.
Diego's not quite the same spot as Coors Field, so we'll see. So Luis and Elias gonna be battling it out for some reps, but I think Luis being 25 helps knees recover a little quicker.
Both of them are very forgettable names during your fantasy draft.
Absolutely, neither one should be on your team. All right, let's go. Who's throwing them the ball?
All right. So we got a pretty healthy starting rotation. Michael King and Dylan Cease are by far the 1 and 2. Dex, you were telling me before we
Yeah.
started here. Michael King has earned the nod for opening day. So
Yep.
he's a 29-year-old. The Padres are full of right-handed pitchers, similar to the Twins. We made a big deal about that during the Twins
That's right.
episode. Last year, Michael King and Dylan Cease, 4.2 WAR guys each. Michael King, 295 ERA, 119 WHIP, which is a little high for what you would say is the dominant number one type guy, but 10.4 Ks per nine, 201 strikeouts last year, 63 walks, which is a little high, but
Yeah.
still like a 3.5 or 4-to-1 ratio.
Yeah,
So
that's an incredible. Like when you get over 10 for a starting pitcher, and they got three guys in a rotation. We'll talk about it, but 10.4. I mean, 200K guys are hard to get, and he did it in 173 innings. So
yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
very impressive. Impressive enough to earn some Cy Young votes. He finished in the top 7. I
Yeah.
think he finished 7th, and Dylan Cease, the next guy on the list, finished like 5th. I think both of them, I believe, in the top 7.
Yeah. I kept hearing,
224 Ks last year for Dylan Cease.
yeah, it's a lot. I mean, both those guys 200Ks. And the thing is, both these guys don't have any no trade protection, 29 and 28 respectively. If this Padres team doesn't do much, or the rest of the rotation, which we'll get to in a minute, fails to deliver, both these guys were basically talked in the offseason as being moved. So Dylan Cease was regularly being discussed, and Michael King a little bit, but not as much. But I mean, Dylan Cease was one we talked about in a Twins episode. He was one that they were talking about dealing for to get him. So
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how loose they're going to be, or how competitive they're going to be at the time. And this, if we're in June, I don't know if they're going to have to be 500 or above. Not sure if these guys will be on the Padres at the end of the season, Prue.
yeah. they've really kind of dug themselves into a hole, in my opinion, with the Bogarts and
Salaries.
Machado contracts, those huge contracts for
Yeah.
relatively old guys. And now, if you can't re-sign either your one and two, aces, you may have dug too deep a hole that you can't recover from anytime real soon. So,
Yeah, that's
one note on Dylan Cease, he had a 107 WHIP last year, 189 innings, and only 137 hits given up. So,
wow.
like, the dude is dominant. He did walk 65 dudes, but 224 Ks and only 100 and whatever that is. I guess 202 base runners.
Crazy. And Peru, I
But
wanted to hit one more thing because I thought it happened, but I couldn't remember. But Fernando Tatis Jr. is also on a 14-year, $340 million contract.
jeez.
So
Were those
he's
the big three?
yeah,
Bogarts, Tatis, and Machado, I think.
yeah. I thought he did sign one, but I couldn't quite remember. But yeah, he signed it. I guess it was an extension he signed back in 2021. I forgot he did it so early, but
Yeah.
it's ramped up. So I think I didn't pay attention because there's only 1 million that first year, then 5, 7. But starting this year, it's 20, and kind of like Machado 20. Then it'll go to 25, 25, and then starting in 2029, for like the last 7 years of the contract, it's 36 million a year.
So that's
So
pretty much exactly the Machado structure.
yeah, they're gonna be paying all these old dudes.
Third pitcher on the list is an interesting one, Mr. Yu Darvish, who is entering his age 38 season. He has
Yeah, he's been
been
around forever.
around forever, 38 years old, five-time All-Star. He's been uh, top 10 in Cy Young voting four different times. He has
Jeez,
finished second twice. He's never won. 12 years ago, he had 277 strikeouts in
God, it's a
a year
truckload.
and has been relatively consistent. He's not, going to approach 277 again, but the last 4 years, he's had surprisingly consistent seasons,
Yep.
even as an age 34 to 37-year-old. He's penciled in as the Padres' number three this year. Another good year last year, 3.31 ERA and a 107 WHIP, a
Yeah.
2.0 WAR. This guy's still got it. He's 38. I don't know if he's got it this year or not, but he had it last year.
So, quick note on you is you Darvish apparently is dealing with fatigue. I think it's in his shoulder, and we're only in March. Yeah, and so I think he's already. So he missed his spring training start, or he's
Oh,
going to. So if it's either today or tomorrow, but regardless, he's not pitching in it. And so now he's doubtful to be
to
making
start
his
the
first
season.
spin in the rotation. So,
Yeah, that's not good.
and it's also kind of what I expect when you're 38 and you throw a bunch of curveballs and stuff. But yeah, he only had 81 innings last year too, so that's another thing. But
Yes.
surprisingly good, like we said, 3.31 ERA, 107 WHIP. That's great. 81 innings, he was dealing with some injuries. And now he was doing fine in spring training, but now fatigue. So it just seems odd to have fatigue, and it's called spring training, man. It's a warm up.
The old body doesn't respond like it used to, huh, you?
Yeah, Fatigway, he's already starting the black dots. Black dots on the Strato card.
They are going to need more than 81 innings out of him to have a chance this year. So
Yep.
hopefully that doesn't last too long. Number four in the rotation, Nick Pivetta. So Nick Pivetta, 1.8 WAR last year, 1.13 WHIP, which is pretty solid. Definitely
Yeah, that's
very
good.
solid for a number four starter. 10.7 Ks per nine, which is great out of a
Very
four
good.
starter, and a 4.8 K to walk ratio last year, which is
Damn, that's really
outstanding
good.
for a four
Huh.
starter. So I don't know what to make of this team yet. I'm still, I'll, like I mentioned at the start of the show, I'm still gonna reveal my pick at the end, but it's not super obvious which way to go after seeing the age of this lineup and of the pitching staff and so forth.
I think when I look at it, I mean, so Joe Musgrove's out, and that was a really really big injury. So he ended up hurting his elbow in Game 2 of the Wild Card Series last year. So
Yeah,
we're not really talking about him, but that's a staple. I mean, he was like their number two
two guy.
last
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's good. That's a big loss, and Replacing him with Pavetta's, I think, really good. I think that's a good fix. I mean, the guy gives up gopher balls, but the good thing about San Diego is it's more of a pitcher friendly park than a hitter friendly park.
Right.
If I'm recalling the metrics right, isn't that what the ballpark effects are? It's more
I
of a
think
pitcher
that's right.
park.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's a good fix. But then, go and talk about the fifth guy. We'll talk about that real quick.
Yeah. So fifth guy was kind of maybe still is kind of a toss up. Stephen Kolek is the guy that's kind of penciled in right now. I think it could be Matt Waldron. They've had a couple of different guys.
Who? We just talked about knowing all these guys, and then he just came up with two random guys. You could have pulled some names out of the hat.
Well, and
Yeah.
both those guys are 28 too, but they're just guys that you've never heard of because they're not doing anything outstanding.
Yeah.
So
I
they're not anybody you want on your fantasy team. They're not going to strike out a ton of people. They're, average, bad whip numbers, high ERAs.
They look like fifth stars to me.
Yeah.
But hey.
So yeah, don't worry about picking up Mr. Kolek or Mr. Waldron for your fantasy squad. I don't have great expectations. Both of them did finish with positive WAR numbers last year, so I shouldn't totally write them off. But um, again, it's kind of four known dudes for the top four spots, and then the fifth starter role is a wild card.
But so did Putin. Putin also finished with above zero WAR last year. So.
Wow.
Oh, Russia jokes. They're the best.
Russian
All right.
jokes. Good job. All right, let's run into the bullpen. Robert Suarez, 33-year-old closer for the Padres. A .9 WAR last year, which I was expecting a little bit higher. He had 36 saves, 8.2 Ks per nine. He only pitched 65 innings, which is a little bit low for a closer, but I mean, really solid numbers. A 105 WHIP, 277 ERA. Stranded 81% of his inherited runners. So the .9 WHIP, or sorry, the .9 WAR surprised me a little bit.
That is kind of surprising, and I think what's surprising to me is how low that K rate is. Because 8.2, I mean, in today's Major League Baseball bullpens, I mean, we're looking at 12 to 15s at some points. I mean, Mason Miller, Josh Hader, I mean, all these dudes, and then you get 8.2. I mean, it's kind of strange. It's a strangely low number for this day and age of baseball to have that. But you're right, he's effective. There's no joke. If you're in fantasy and you got him up there, I mean, he's not a top 5 closer by any means, but he's certainly a top 12. He's an RP1.
You'll take those 36 saves and run with it, and the low WHIP
Absolutely.
and ERA help your overall numbers too. So
yeah, these next two guys look more intriguing though, especially if something happens to Suarez.
Yeah, so Jason Adam and Jeremiah Estrada are setup guys. This is a 1-2 punch behind him that is super solid. Both of them under a 2 WAR last year, 0.7 for Jason Adam. Again, I think it's just because of their low innings totals. Mostly, Jason Adam only pitched 26.2 innings, 10.5 strikeouts per nine. So you could probably do the math pretty quick on that.
Yeah.
Roughly 30 strikeouts in 26 innings.
Yep.
Something like that. What stood out to me is that he stranded 93% of his inherited runners. So this is a high leverage guy. Came in 1.01 ERA and a .79 WHIP. So this is your lights out stopper that comes in and shuts the door when things are starting to get out of hand.
Yeah. Did he have any saves last year? Did we look
at I think he had like 3 or something, like not a ton, but
okay. I was wondering if they just used if the leverage situation just happened to be in the 9th inning, if they actually brought him in, but it sounds like that was just the day Suarez had gone 2 days in a row was when they used him for the save.
Maybe, yeah, something like that. I didn't check and see game by game or anything, but and again, only 26 innings, so he didn't have that many opportunities, but he pitched very well when he did come in.
Hey, he had 3 runs all season. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's not a bad total for one game for a lot of starting pitchers. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other guy I mentioned, Jeremiah Estrada, who's a 25-year-old. The first 2 guys I didn't mention were in their 30s, early 30s. But Jeremiah Jeremiah Estrada is their young gun, 25 years old, 295 ERA last year,
Whoa.
107 WHIP, 13.9 Ks per nine,
God.
and a 37% strikeout rate. So
Wow. That is
incredibly
ridiculous.
high.
Yeah.
And that was 61 innings. So he had his fair share of the load last year out of the pen, and he dominated.
Yeah,
So
that's
keep an eye on that dude.
absolutely. Yeah, Adam and Estrada. If Suarez starts looking a little shaky in the ninth, I think they got two good options to fill in.
That's right.
Either one looks pretty good, frankly.
Yep. Either one would boost your fantasy squad numbers for strikeouts, ERA, WHIP, and maybe a lucky save or two.
Yeah, they lost Tanner Scott. That was kind of like one of their big losses last year. So one of
Yes.
their big left-handed setups, and I think arguably he was certainly in the top five. I mean, I don't want to get too in the weeds, but the Dodgers thought he was the number one relief pitcher last year for like setup and relief. So now he's because the rich get richer. But Tanner
Yes.
Scott, that's going to be a big loss for the San Diego bullpen because he was tremendous. And I think that's going to be a tough one to replace. I don't know. I mean, it's going to have to be Adam and Estrada doing those types of situations, but it just makes him one inning less, is kind of what I
Yes.
see out of that.
Yeah. So that's a good point, Dex. Tanner Scott came over for like half a year. He just kind of came in to bolster their pen last year
It was
for their
good.
playoff run. So that may have stolen a few saves from Suarez too, and maybe took his innings pitch total down a little bit. But that's kind of what's going on there. And then so he came in for just a few months
Yep.
to help them get to their playoff appearance and so forth. And then he's on his way to LA to make a lot more money, probably.
Yeah. No, I think so. I remember we were talking about this with the Royals last year. Tanner Scott would be awfully nice at the back end of the Royals bullpen. Would have been a
Yes.
great fit, but we didn't have enough to pay. Like San Diego, I mean, we'll get to the prospects here in a minute, but they are depleted. So they may well need to trade some of these guys to get some more dudes. But yeah, it's not a bad bullpen though. It's actually better than I thought when we went through it.
Yeah, they've got a couple of lefties too, situational lefties in the pen. Yuki Matsui and Adrian Marahon. And both of them are up around the 10 Ks per nine range. Morahone had a ridiculously low ERA, 283,
So
and
it's
a
not
ridic.
more John.
I don't think so. It has the little tilde or whatever,
Oh man, all
so I
right.
think
I was
it's
like Adrian Morjon, and you're like Morejon,
Morahone.
like Renheful,
That's right.
Juan Burrito.
Yeah. Oh, don't get started on the burrito.
All right, we're not gonna do that one again. That's
Uh,
that's for another episode.
283 ERA for that dude, but a 132 WHIP. So he
Woo!
must have gotten a little bit lucky, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a
he's
lot of walks. What that is.
It must be, yeah. And then 10 Ks per nine, so he probably walked him loaded and then struck out the side.
He likes to keep it interesting.
He's a 25-year-old, so I have him and Estrada are both 25. I can see them both being around and being dominant for this pen for the next, 5 years.
Yeah,
Anyway,
and the price is
overall,
right.
pretty good bullpen. The fifth starter's a little shaky.
Yeah,
Top four starters are solid. Top six in their lineup are pretty solid. So this is overall, you can tell that they're a potentially playoff bound team again.
yeah,
They did
absolutely.
lose, so they had one major departure. I talked about the additions, really nothing to write home about there. The big loss they had was their left fielder from last year, Jurickson
That's right.
Profar. 3.6 WAR, hit 24 homers, 134 OPS plus last year. Had a career year, really.
Yeah, he did.
And he's gone. He's signed with Atlanta this year. Good for him. I guess the Padres can't pay every one of their position players 30 million a year, so somebody missed out there. But so that's a big loss along with Joe Musgrove. So
Yep,
that's going to be their biggest holes to fill this year.
it is. So let's go into their prospects, if any. I don't even know if the guy left. They trade
Yeah, so
everybody.
the only one that I thought could make a splash this year, I looked through their list and they really don't have a lot of top prospects. Terso Orleans, he's almost 25 already, so he's been around a little while. Hasn't managed to crack the majors yet. He's the seventh ranked San Diego Padres prospect. So anyway, Terso Orleans hit almost 300 last year with 23 homers in AAA. He's a lefty hitting outfielder. And as we talked about earlier, with the
Yep.
probable struggles of Connor Joe and Jason Hayward in left field, I think there's a better than average chance that this 25-year-old makes his first major league appearance this year.
Yeah, that's a pretty good take because they're also not the most durable.
Yep.
I mean, Jason Hayward's not known for playing 162 games a year. So, especially in a platoon role, and he's the lefty bat. So, if this guy's the lefty, I mean, all he needs is Jason Hayward to just be tired and old and sore. And
Yep.
if he's that enough, he might get in. Plus, I mean, outfield, I mean, this is kind of an older outfield. I mean, actually, I guess not. It's only the one position in it. Tatis, if they got him out there all the time, Merrill. You got a couple shortstops running the outfield, and then
That's
they got
right.
Terso Elenas.
Mid 30s left fielder that, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Jackson Merrill's going to have to cover a lot of ground out there. So.
Yeah, I think Terso Elenas, you're right. I think if he hits his way onto this, and it's not going to take much for Connor Joe and Jason Hayward to hit their way off the team,
Right.
or at least into a less productive role in the lineup. He can definitely get up there. That's pretty good. Yeah, we'll keep
Yeah.
eyeballing him in the early spring. See how he
So
does.
I think, yeah, he could make a little splash here. We'll see. It'll depend on those the others and who else emerges during spring training as a potential DH spot, because I just can't see them hitting a light hitting guy that hit 230 last year who's not going to hit that many homers.
I think you're right. So let's head back up, and I want to hear your final take. So Vegas says 85.5 is the over-under. What say you?
I think that's really close, honestly. I don't see it being more than 5 wins either way. I'm actually leaning a little under right now.
Okay.
If you look down the age of their lineup,
yeah, it's old.
You got an old lineup. You got a few 28-year-old, 29-year-old pitchers, but you got 38-year-old Yu Darvish that you're relying on, who's already hurt. It sounds like this spring. Your closers mid 30s. Your first setup guys early 30s. Your grand signings from the offseason are 35-year-old Jason Hayward and 34-year-old Elias Diaz. So this team is, I think this might be the last chance they have before a lot of these guys kind of age out of contention.
This is the last year of the window, it looks like to me.
Yeah.
And we talked about this with Philly. Kind of looks similar. This team just looks really old. They got to win now, and they're so strapped on cash. Like
Yes.
they're going to be just in the hurt curtains starting next year because they're not going to be able to move any of these guys.
Yeah, I think they've done themselves a huge disservice by signing both of those or three of those guys in their lineup to long-term deals, and two of the three can't play a full season, it seems like. Yeah. So
it's kind of like
that's a bad formula.
They picked the wrong time to quit smoking. So the Dodgers decide to show up and be the biggest spinners in the world, and they're in your division. You do the same thing, and the Dodgers are just spitting on you. It's like, whatever. You guys can't compete. You can't outspend us. Don't even try. And I think it's going to kill San Diego for like the foreseeable future. So I think this year they got a good chance.
Yeah, they might.
Maybe next year.
They might get hot. Sure. Like I said, the Pacoda is over that. They're at 87. Or Fangraphs is 82. And then Vegas is right in between. So I'm going to lean under. I'm going to go with Fangraphs and be closer to like the 82 to 84 wins, just barely over 500.
Yeah, even 85 and 77, that's a pretty good year. And I think that's probably where this team is, but I'm with you. I'm on the under.
Yep.
It's going to take way too many things to go right. And Yu Darvish is already kind of gimpy. They don't have anyone coming up. I mean, Matt Waldron, okay. Now you got two number 5s in your starting rotation. That's not going to play for me. So I bet that number drops a game probably by tomorrow because that news came out today about Yu Darvish. So by the time you hear this episode, it may be 84. You're like, man, Shrewneds, they don't even know what they're talking about. Vegas already has them at 83.5. And
this is breaking news.
Exactly. We're breaking on the Shrewneds with you. But all right, Peru. Well, thank you very much for that wrap up. I think that's going to finish up our San Diego Padres. kind of analysis of the team. So again, they're going to be good. They're technically in their window. They've got the pitching to do it. They get really top pitching up top. Their top of the lineup is awesome. And frankly, probably six deep. It's pretty darn good. Their bullpen looks pretty solid too. It's just they're going to have to stay healthy, and they certainly need their best players to play. And with Fernando Tatis, we already ran through his injury history. There's a lot of it. Xander Bogaerts played through injuries last year, missed 60 games or so. So they need those dudes to be on the field and productive. But if they do, they could certainly get to a high 80s, I think. I don't think they'll get 93 again.
No.
I
Yep.
cannot see 90s at all. I don't see a path for that. But I can certainly see upper 80s if things play out well and they stay healthy. But this Padres team could be pretty exciting to watch. So let's see what they do this season.
Yeah. Yep. That's right.
All right. So until next time, like, follow, subscribe. Keep supporting us. We'll support you. Stay shrewd.